Ladies and gentlemen, and now we've got another couple of guests here at the ACHL digital event. And I'm very, very pleased to say we've got Nathan de Valk. I hope that's pronounced correctly, Nathan. Nathan is Head of Cargo Products and Network Development with Brussels Airport Company. And from a little bit further afield, or a long way further afield, we've got Amir Pinada. Hopefully that's okay as well, Amir. I'm not sure, but I hope that was near enough. And Amir is the Manager Aviation Trade and Logistics with Miami-Dade Aviation Department. So fantastic. Welcome on board, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Now, gents, the theme of the conference is From Crisis to Care, and also conveniently, it's also genuine collaboration and initiative. So what I'd like to ask first of all from both of you is, the supply chain collaboration is crucial now to get us through this crisis. How did the two of you come together? Is there an airport dating agency out there that attracted each of you, or what was the core reasons why Brussels and Miami pitched in together? So Amir.
Well, it goes back to collaboration amongst airports. We had identified in the past airports that we had worked with, and in short order, Brussels was way at the top of the list of airports that we wanted to work with. And we actually met at a meeting here in Miami, an AGM meeting with Stephen Pullman, the head of Brussels Cargo, and that kind of started the initial discussions as to how we would work together. That quickly, I think, developed later on into other major projects, of which Pharma.Aero and the founding of that organization, I think, is probably our most successful collaboration thus far. But we have worked together quite a bit on air service development between our two airports. And we have, happy to announce recently, earlier this year, Amerijet launched service between Miami and Brussels, as well as DHL also launching service to Belgium. So, the efforts, I think, have been quite fruitful. We have worked on both sides of the Atlantic on these air service development efforts. And obviously the foundation and the launching of Pharma.Aero was probably, I think, our greatest success. I'll let Nathan kind of cover more that side so he can kind of elaborate on the Pharma.Aero. But it's been a great working relationship, and it's really been a pleasure to work with our colleagues in Brussels.
Brilliant, brilliant. So Nathan, a nice little segue in there, very, very nicely and complimentary. So I'll leave that over to you now.
Yeah, I can only confirm what Amy just said. We had a good working relationship already for a long time back, and we had similar strategies. We were both focusing on how to improve that pharma handling at both airports. We both went for CIV certification of the community, and I think that was the initial starting point, where we felt that we shared the same vision. And we started talking, and it was clear that we both wanted to take this to a bigger level, a more global approach, where we felt that airports were in a unique position to take the initiative, to take the lead in setting up a global collaboration platform to bring together like-minded companies and connect them directly to the pharma shipper. And that's how Pharma.Aero was born. So together with Miami, we first signed a letter of intent, and then very quickly we invited some other airports. Changi Airport was the third airport that was ready to jump in the pool together with us. And so you're looking at the founding fathers of Pharma.Aero, and it has been a very fruitful collaboration, very open relation, where we really focus on, instead of just talking about things, implementing, testing stuff together with all the operators in the supply chain and the end customer, the shipper. And I believe we have some great results so far. So and it will lead to more in the future.
Well done, lads. Well done. Lovely to see such a fruitful relationship. Now, on the fact that you've brought Pharma.aero into the conversation at the early stages, one of the things that everybody's anticipating now is the capability and the challenges with the vaccines as they come on board. So obviously taking a leap with what many parties felt was an expensive alternative to GDP. Obviously it's bearing its fruits now. Now with vaccines, are you as airports working in collaboration with government bodies or medical entities to allow them to be aware of the capability of pharma handling at your respective airports? So Amir, if you can cover that one to start with.
Sure. From our perspective, absolutely. We've been working with our cargo community really from the outset, and even more recently to address the issues of the vaccine for COVID-19. We have recently launched a task force here at the Miami Airport that is looking at how do we address all of the issues related to the distribution process from an international perspective, but also from a domestic perspective. Obviously, nationally, we will, I think, play a part, being the largest airport in the state of Florida in the US and the Southeast, but also being a pivotal airport in connections to Latin America and the Caribbean. Yeah. We have more connectivity to that region than just about any other airport in the world. So obviously, we're going to play an important part in that distribution effort. But to answer your question, we've been working with our respective agencies, both at state and federal level, from the get-go with the CIV certification, and then now more recently with this effort with the vaccines. And we're trying to address it from a macro level and then drilling down to more of a micro level, let's say, an operations level. So we're looking at everything, Chris. We're looking at things like security for the shipments. We're looking at landside operations and making sure that we have uncongested roads ready to be able to move the shipments when available. On the air side, it's the same thing. It's making sure that we have the proper ramp parking for the aircraft at the right locations and warehouses that will be handling the product as it comes off the airports. I'm sorry, the aircraft. Pardon me. So it's a collaborative effort. The airport and our federal agencies, customs obviously is going to play an important part, making sure clearance is easy, is efficient, and then working with the community, making sure that we have proper trucking available, cooling trucks to take the product, because all indications are pointing that the vaccine will be an active product. So it's a total collaboration between us, the federal, the state level, and then of course our cargo community and the private sector that supports us.
Yeah, and it's amazing, isn't it, that everybody's anticipating and hoping and wishing and crossing their fingers for the vaccines, but most people don't associate a security requirement with the vaccines. But for obvious reasons, it's really, really high up there.
Yeah, so this is going to be the #1 commodity in the world for I think for a long time. And obviously it's going to be in high demand, and bad actors are already thinking of how to confiscate, how to sell it in the black market. These things are already going on. We spoke with some of our security people at the airport, and this is already being anticipated. So the security component is going to be an important part of this effort.
Exactly, which is also part of the from crisis to care. There's so many different things we have to take care of. It's amazing, huh? And such a shame that for every good thing that happens, there's an equally bad consideration happening somewhere else.
That's right. That's right. And it's unfortunate, but it's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And I also want to just add one other thing, is that important to this entire effort is to make sure that we get it out to those that need it the most. Here in North America and in Europe and maybe Japan and some of the other more developed countries, I think things are going to work rather smoothly with a little bit of chaos. But as we moved into areas such as Africa and South America and maybe other parts of Asia, it's going to be a tremendous challenge to make sure that we are able to distribute the vaccines to those parts of the world.
Yeah. And lessons learned from those that are better equipped, and support is going to be crucial with the caring element, as well as one aviation family looking after the rest of the world with regards to supply. So thanks for that, Amir. Now, Nathan, just on a similar basis in Brussels, I know especially Stephen Pullman, who's probably one of the best salesmen and motivators that I've spoken with for a long time. He's a great lad. He'd be proudly saying that, you know, you took initial steps when others didn't, and you capitalized on, you know, opportunities, and now it's coming to bear fruit.
Yeah, I think that's true, but it was a lot of hard work. I think it's just like Emir pointed out, it's really a multi-layered approach. It's not
Yeah,
really just looking at the airport operations itself. I think that's vital, of course, having good and efficient processes, having the right infrastructure at the airport. We really look at the airport, the cargo area, as a logistics platform. So it's not just an airport where planes land and take off. It's much more complex with a segmented, fragmented supply chain that we have to manage and coordinate. So first of all, on a local level, we also have the Air Cargo Belgium community working groups that bring together the community, that where we make sure that whatever inefficiencies would exist, we can find solutions for it and offer reliable handling. But also on a shipper level, we've spent and invested quite a lot of time and effort in building up a direct relationship with the pharmaceutical shippers in order to better understand their requirements, listen to their frustrations sometimes of shipments not being handled correctly at some airports, and how we can overcome that and meet their expectations. So we set up regular pharma shipper forums where we have open dialogues with these guys, and this really helps us in identifying the priorities that we have to tackle, not only from an infrastructure point of view, also procedures, training, um, and collaboration between airports. And that brings me to the more international level. We can offer a terrific service at Brussels. It's mainly an export market for pharma and for these vaccines. But if the product does not arrive at the end station in a good way, if the airline does not take care of, or if something goes wrong in a transit point, we will have an issue and all the efforts will be lost. And most importantly, the patient will suffer. So that's why we, with a lot of good intentions, spend so much time in working together with other airports and other international bodies such as Pharma.io, TIACA, but also IATA that can play a vital
yeah,
role in setting the right standards to handle these delicate shipments.
yeah. No, exactly, exactly. Now, just to continue on the theme where you've mentioned about airports being a logistics platform and sort of head of their own ecosystem or community. Do you think now airports have got a much bigger role to play in clear directives and, you know, laying out codes of conduct, codes of practice for everybody that resides on that particular airport, more so than they did in the future, in the past? Sorry.
Well, I believe the airport is very well positioned to take up that coordinating role. Very often we are not ourselves involved in the handling of cargo or airplanes, but we very often are the ones that have a view on the total process. Very often we see that individual operators that are in their segment, handling agents, forwarders, airlines, optimize their own operations, but lack the total perspective, and as a result sub-optimize. So I
Yeah,
think there an airport can play a very important role. Secondly, sometimes you simply need to put some oil in a machine in order to make it work more efficiently, and I think that's what we sometimes are. The, we bring people together in a neutral way, and we can set certain standards. I think one of the great examples we're working on at Brussels Airport is the BruCloud, which we created. So a digital platform. It's like the highway. You first need to put it in place before transport companies can start organizing transports. That's what we do. We put the basic data sharing infrastructure in place so that the operators at the airport can start sharing data and build applications on top of that. But it's not just offering and creating that basic infrastructure, it's also setting the standard and saying, guys, this is the way we are going to work in our community. It's not a choice anymore. This is the standard, and either you work with these systems in order to improve efficiency and transit times, or you don't, but then you are not part of the community.
Exactly, exactly. And over to you, Amir. Similar opinions. Do you feel that you can now really start to influence things a lot quicker than were happening before, because there were so many political and administrative blockers, and now there's more enablers, and your regulatory authorities are leaning towards getting things done a lot quicker?
I think that's absolutely true, and I agree completely with the work that Brussels is doing and that Nathan outlined. Unfortunately for us here in Miami, we're a little bit behind the digital platform effort. Our cargo community system is something that we've started to work on and are hopefully going to be implementing over the next year or so. This crisis, I think, has presented an opportunity for us, but also a challenge, because we don't have a community platform in place like many other airports. To be more competitive, to really look at the future, community systems, I think, are really the facilitators, or really the necessary infrastructure that are going to help airports go to the next level. And Miami's working towards that. But this in the U.S., I just wanted to say, is something that is relatively new, not so much in Europe and in Asia. Here in the U.S., several airports have gone down this path of implementing a community system. Atlanta has done it, DFW has done it, and Miami will be working towards implementation in the very near future. But I can't agree more with what Nathan has said, and the Blue Cloud effort, that they've been very successful in implementing in their airport, in their community. It's one of the benchmarks out there among airports. So
Yeah, no, good.
Great job.
Good. And just on that same theme, one of the things that that I've been so frustrated with, and so many previous colleagues and existing colleagues, is the lack of digitization, and especially the paperless effort. But I think now, and I'm hoping, that airports will be one of the major driving forces, and that they will strongly encourage, rather than debate and discuss with the tenants on their particular airports, that paperless should come in, if for no other reason than the hygiene argument, whereby it doesn't make sense in this day and age to be touching those documents as often as we have to. It's ridiculous. So is that something that you're going to drive?
It certainly is, and again, I think this crisis is a good example of why we need to implement this type of cargo community system. The contactless documentation or procedures, I should say, will help. I think lower any possibility of spreading the virus, and it's really something that should have been done a long time ago. IATA has been working on the e-airway bill and the single window concept that they've been trying to implement in many locations around the world. And again, some places have really jumped on this bandwagon of digitalizing everything and moving forward. Brussels being a great example. Miami, unfortunately, we're a little bit behind in that effort, but obviously realize that this is a great opportunity. Like Stephen says, never let a good crisis go to waste. This is a great opportunity for us to jump on that bandwagon and move forward with our efforts here.
Yeah, no, very, very good. Now, coming back to you, Nathan, what I'd like to ask you, if you don't mind, is obviously, this, what we say, areas of management and leadership have been truly tested, and during this last period. I'm no expert, but I'm pretty convinced there's going to be a very, very strong second wave. It's going to have a different impact and a different set of influences, but it's definitely going to be a second wave. What have been the biggest challenges to you in your own personal leadership role, and also the airport, with regard to dealing with the last 5-6 months?
Well, I think first of all, on the passenger side, all airports have been hit very hard, and Well, the number of flights have dropped dramatically. Everybody's afraid to travel, or there's travel bans. Also in Europe, it's not still not allowed today to travel to every part in the world. So that has a huge impact, not just on the passenger side of the business and the whole business model of the airport, but also specifically for cargo. There was a lot of connectivity that air capacity that was lost,
Yeah.
which had to be replaced by other alternatives. And I think there we really had to take a leadership role as airports, working together with our communities, with our customers and partners, the airlines, to be flexible, to be creative, and to come up with solutions, because there was still a lot of cargo that had to move, also life-saving material that had to be brought into the countries and the different continents. So I think we can be proud of what we achieved as an air cargo industry, the flexibility and the agility we have shown in finding creative solutions, putting all possible aircrafts back into business, but also setting up new ways of working and alternatives. The passenger freighters, which were unthinkable a couple of months ago, and which have become a reality, just to cope with this lack of airlift capacity. Um, so I think there we really we will need this strong leadership in the next months, because it's not over yet, as you say, Chris. And I think there will be more challenges, such as the transportation of this huge volume of vaccines, but then also the restart of the business. So we will need strong people with big shoulders to take up this challenge and lead their communities in the right direction.
Yeah, so Amir, what I would like to ask you now is we've spoken about many of the representative bodies and the fact that they've also had to experience practical sizing and reduce their numbers and some key expertise. Do you think now's the time where they could all actually come together and work on some real critical areas and pool their resources to make a much more dynamic approach to everything that's necessary?
I think it's absolutely the right time. You know, this crisis, I think, has shown all of us that only through collaboration are we going to really be able to meet the demand of distributing vaccines to 8 billion people around the world. And many of our representative airlines association and so forth have had to cut back on their efforts, have come back on staffing. It's really affected all of us, and really the collaboration effort is the only way moving forward. A good example of that, if I may, is the current collaboration that's taking place with TIACA and Pharma.Aero. They've organized a joint task force that is trying to address the recommendations to the supply chain once the COVID-19 vaccine is available. And this is just an example of two major associations that came together and realized that, you know, working together, we could probably produce a much better product than working individually. And the joint task force has been meeting over the last few weeks. They've been contacting the pharmaceutical companies and manufacturers and trying to get feedback from them. We will soon be moving into a second stage where questionnaires will be going out to the supply chain, to the major stakeholders, to get their feedback. And between the challenges and the opportunities that exist between those two, eventually we're going to come up with a white paper report that will provide the industry those recommendations that that will go across the supply chain to try to make this as efficient as possible. But these challenges are difficult to meet, and you know, again, I keep saying the word collaboration, just working together, forming partnerships. It's really, Chris, it's really the only way forward for us as an industry. We're a very industry that's very broken up. We have very major players throughout the industry. You know, so working together is the only way to really be effective.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And Nathan, your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. What Amy said is correct. We have to collaborate. It's not just saying, yeah, we have to do something. The only way to solve it is to actually start collaborating and working together. And it's never easy. You have to invest time in it and effort. and you have to plan meetings and agree on how to move forward. But I think the example of Tiaka and Pharma.iro working together, it's quite unique. It's the first time we set up this type of collaboration between organizations. So far, it's working really well. And I think once we have some results which we can share with the world and with our members, I think we have to invite others to share their results as well, because there will be other task forces set up. And let's at least unite as an industry and not again start fighting again amongst each other and trying to be the smartest of all. No, I think we should reach out to each other, share results, and then implement things. And also there we will need collaboration. It's once we have these recommendations, well, the proof of the pudding will be in the actual transport, and that will be the real challenge. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. It's a challenge indeed, but one that's necessary. And like you both said, collaboration is the only way forward as a team. Now, with that collaboration tone, customs. How are you both dealing with customs to facilitate a lot more practical and reasonable, pre-advanced clearance, risk assessment approach, and also some of the administrative and bureaucracy that's been experienced around the world from customs? How are you dealing with that issue, Nathan?
Well,
Well, I think we have some a good experience that we built up over the past 2 years in a different area in e-commerce, where we had a big collaboration project with Belgian customs, with the entire industry, where they set up a kind of pre-clearance system with pre-announced details of the shipment, so that they could do their risk assessment while the shipments were still in the air. And before they arrived, they had done their selection, and basically this allowed a much smoother and quicker transit process. I think that type of expertise we built up could now be applied also in the past months, where we had the PPE imports, which were sometimes very challenging, with quality requirements that were not always met, and shipments that had to be pre-announced in order to do those checks. I think that the lessons learned from the previous project were easy to apply, and it was necessary, because we were hit with big volumes like all other airports,
Yeah.
and it did not happen automatically. We had to sit together with these guys from customs. They were very collaborative and supportive in order to transit those shipments through the airport. And but yeah, you need good a common vision and good systems in place to make that happen. Otherwise, yeah, things can get blocked, and that's not what we want.
Exactly. And that's why we need to bring the confidence back, and the speed and the efficiencies. And over to you, Amir.
a similar effort from our side. We've worked with our local customs authorities on the examples of the PPE. Something that we in this country, there was an executive order from the president's office, basically saying that all PPEs manufactured in the U.S. could not be exported.
Yeah.
But there was some unclarity as for transit PPEs coming into the U.S. for export. And this caused a lot of issues locally with some of the forwarders and some of the airlines and shippers in our community. And, I had to be on the phone quite a bit for a couple of weeks, trying to make sure that there was some clarity from customs as to the ability to transport product that was only transiting the U.S. And of course, it was okay to do that. But to get that information out to all of the major stakeholders in our community, it did take some time. And in working with customs, which we have a very close working relationship locally, we were able to do this in a very quick manner, and was able to make sure that the PPEs got out to the communities in Latin America and in the Caribbean that were waiting for these products. Like Nathan said, we need to have collaboration with our federal agencies, particularly customs. Moving forward with the ongoing effort for the vaccine is going to be critical. that we have a strong and efficient process in place to make sure the clearance is not burdened in any way so that we can get the vaccines out as soon as possible.
Yeah, no, exactly. So important. Now, something I want to ask you, I've been discussing with several people, and some have come up with examples where you've got airports with multiple GHAs and other organisations, and some of the organisations are all agreeing on the well-being of their personnel, i.e., that they insist that there must be PPE, face masks, etc., and others are using the scientific argument and all the other bits and pieces to suggest that if people want to, they can, but it's not something that they insist on. Now, I'm of a background where it's more use of a baseball bat than a feather tickler. And I just think there needs to be a time of clarity now for certain organizations to just say, look, there's been enough stupidity, and this is just my opinion, I'm not asking you guys to agree with it. There's been enough stupidity globally with regards to face masks, yes or no. Anybody with a modicum of common sense would say any protection is better than no protection, and the objective is to protect others. So if it was at your airports, do you feel that airports have got a good opportunity now to propose a certain code of conduct to all of its tenants with regard to the well-being and protection of everybody that's going to be expected to work on those airports as we hit another wave and more disruption and pressure? Amir, we'll start with you on that one.
Sure. Well, I can tell you that from our perspective here in Miami, this is something that was implemented early on. Basically, the entire airport staff, or if you're working at the airport and you're a staff member, you must wear masks. And depending what your function is, there is a substantial amount of cleaning associated with the operation. We had, and early on, we organized a logistics task force from the county perspective, where we advised other industry sectors on how we were doing it here at the airport. And I'll give you a very simple example. Obviously the forklift is one of the essential instruments or vehicles used in air cargo. Well, the process is that every time a driver jumps on and off a forklift, it must be completely cleaned.
Yeah.
And there is a process as to where the cleaning must take place. Well, this is now the standard here in Miami-Dade County for all warehouse facility workers that have to work on a forklift or drive a forklift. These are the kinds of things that we implemented early on, along with the mask and the proper CDC guidelines that were issued. The airport immediately took those to heart, both from the cargo standpoint and also at the terminal, where we have implemented cleaning standards of all sorts, both high touch areas, but also wide areas with the lighting system. I forgot what it is. It's UVA lighting or something that also kills the germs. So this is something that the airport took a lead on and followed the proper guidelines. Chris, like you said, we knew that we could not have a breakout of cases here at the airport. This was just something that would hinder us in our ability to continue to grow our business once we get past this effort. And as you know, Miami has suffered through a second wave, which has affected our growth. We were growing pretty well for some time. Just to give you an idea, a year ago, we had on average about 112,000 passengers going through our terminal. Today, that number is about 30,000. So it's quite a reduction, but it was building, and then it flattened out once that second wave started. So you can see how important it is to make sure that we follow those guidelines given by the health authorities to make sure that we don't have, when I say we, our cargo community and our airport community, have any outbreaks at the airport. It could really affect our business and our ability to bring those passengers and more freight to come back to our airport.
Yeah, no, exactly. And thanks for that, Amir. And Nathan, from your perspective?
Yeah, very similar, Chris. I think we have a responsibility to make sure to create an environment where there's enough confidence in the way things work and are operated, and that people that come to work can work in a safe environment. So very early on, also Brussels Airport immediately took the initiative to have the masks
Yep.
implemented for all of us. We even did awareness campaigns in the cargo community, and we distributed masks, and we offered them basically to our partners in the community, because some of them did not react quick enough and did not have enough stock. So we basically provided them with the necessary protective masks. I think we are now even in a stage in Belgium where we go a step further, where there's mandatory temperature screening in the passenger terminal when you enter, and when you come back from a travel and you from a risk area, there's a mandatory test facility now, which has been
Yep.
set up at the airport, where you can do a quick test. So to basically to avoid infection and to keep out infection from spreading.
Yeah. And that has to be done, is it twice in 4 days or twice in 5 days to be sure of the accuracy?
Yeah, so the first test is at the airport, and there we offer the facility and the tests, and there's like a quick result. But then there's a requirement to do it like a quarantine, depending on where you come from, of a couple of days or weeks, and a second test if necessary. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's so important. Keep and to make people appreciate and understand the well-being requirements from everybody that they work for, and obviously everybody they make contact with. Now, another area that's seen a huge surge is that of e-commerce, and it's gone. I mean, it's gone through the roof. So anybody associated with that, they're absolutely over the moon with it. But from an airport perspective and from an oversight perspective, do you see now the issue of whether you call it onshoring, home shoring, or near shoring? Do you see that as coming in a degree of strength which will affect the volumes? Nathan?
I think at this stage we see a different movement. I think the past months we have seen that the e-commerce shipments are not always able to in the ability to pay high transport rates were pushed out because there was a lack of capacity, and a lot of the imports from China, all that capacity was used to transport to bring in the PPE. So a lot of that moved to different modes of transport or were simply delayed. So that intercontinental e-commerce. Um, on the other hand, we saw that on a local level, on a European level, there was a lot of e-commerce people discovering the e-commerce shops, and everybody was working from home or not working, and they had a lot of time to shop. So we did see a big shift there in the customer behavior. It, we don't see this big macro trend yet of nearshoring or onshoring. I think it's too quick to judge. Um, I'm not sure whether we will feel this as an industry. Even if there will be nearshoring, there will always be some production in those low-cost countries, and there will be a need for quick transport of shipment of orders that were placed on the internet 2 days ago and then will have to be delivered very quick. So I think it's a difficult one to judge how much impact that might have.
Yeah. Okay. And a question on from an airport and the opportunities that you've got subject to the land mass and the density that's already occupied. Do you see now that the fact that companies looked at the way the best models were before, which was just in time, do everything at the last minute, save on warehousing, save on storage, etc., to now being a little bit more risk aware and maybe storing a little bit longer and needing more space, etc. Are either of you, from the airport perspective, looking at having facilities either close or very, should we say, associated with some form of a tunnel or a pipeline, but not directly on the airport frontage, so that it's still part of the airport with regards to offering services and storage?
I'll start off with
Yeah,
with that,
lovely.
if you don't mind. In our particular case, we've seen a huge demand for warehouse near the airport. And basically today, just about all the vacant land in proximity to Miami International Airport is taken up by either commercial or warehouse space. So to answer your question, yes, definitely there's been this effort to move in that direction. And on the e-commerce front, we've seen companies like Amazon continue to expand their footprint in Miami. Just recently announcing an over 1 million square foot DC in the south side of the county, along with their current DC at one of our other airports, Opalaca, and a adjacent facility close to the airport, just within a mile or so of the airport. So you can see that there's a lot of effort to source this space as close as possible to airports.
Yeah.
I think that trend will continue. E-commerce in the United States is growing tremendously. And I mean, in our particular area, our domestic freight grew 13% July over July, and that is a strong indicator of the growth in e-commerce. So it's absolutely something that will continue, I think, in the effort and continue to grow. Particularly of strong consideration is the area of e-commerce of groceries.
Yeah.
That is something that has just taken off tremendously in recent time because of this quarantine that we all are living through, living at home and working from home more than we had before. And I think this is presenting new challenges as well as opportunities for the supply chain. Sourcing it near to the airport means the perishables that are coming in or off airport airplanes can be sorted very close by and then off to the individual grocery stores and markets out there that people are buying from.
Exactly. And Nathan?
Yeah, I can only confirm it. We see a lot of investment happening by real estate developers. They are doing very well. So it's probably driven one by e-commerce and a lot of fulfillment centers that are built to have that stock in the market, but also the trend you see, a lot of shippers have seen how vulnerable their global supply chains were. And they simply need to build up more stock in the supply chain, and well, that has to sit somewhere. That stock, although it costs money, we're seeing a shift back to investing more working capital in building up some buffer in the supply chain for stock. So there's a requirement for more real estate. We also see that happening at the airport itself. As you know, we've had a big investment program going on for the past 2 years, and it's still running. Even today, we continue. So we invested about 100 million euros in new airside first line facilities, and there's a couple of buildings that will go live in the next weeks and months with very big capacity. And the demand is there. The forwarders need the space. The volumes keep on growing. If we look at our volumes, and it's mainly driven by e-commerce, but also export pharma and import perishables. Despite the crisis, we're for the past 3 months we're plus 10% compared to last year. So we do not feel any drop in volumes. It has been difficult in the beginning of the year, but this was mainly driven by the fact that the capacity was simply not there anymore. But today we see a very healthy situation and a good growth for all operators at the airport.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I like to add to what Nathan just said, and we've also had the same experience here at Miami where our volumes have grown 12%, year over year, and operations are up 25%, versus last year. From our cargo airlines. So the growth has really been on the cargo side for us as well.
Yep, certainly putting cargo in the shop front window now. Everybody's realising how important it is. It's amazing that it takes something like this, to propel it up to those sorts of recognition heights. But Anyhow, lads, it's coming to near the end of the podcast. So what I'd like to ask you is, and we'll start with you, Nathan, what 3 points would you, from your position and your organisation, be willing to suggest would be committed to enhance the supply chain? Just very quickly, 3 key points.
Well, I think as key points, I would like to mention first of all the willingness to collaborate. We are collaborating and we will continue to do so. But I would love to see more people spend some of their time on collaboration outside of their organization in their community, even just on a local level, but also on participating in these global platforms. Secondly, I think digitization, creating more transparency in the supply chain. We keep on saying it, but it's not, instead of just talking about it, just start implementing it. An airport can put the foundation in place, but we need our cargo communities to help us to build up these platforms and share the data and implement the different applications. And third, I think we have this big challenge coming up on vaccine transport. We've been talking about it for the past 50 minutes. I think we will need to work together, and our community and our local shippers that have to export their products can count on us. We will do everything that is needed to make it happen.
Very good, very good. And Amir?
Well, I agree with everything Nathan said. I would only add maybe communication. Communication is critical in our industry. The better communication you have, which goes along with collaboration, the better we're all going to have, and that communication goes, up and down the supply chain. So making sure that you have efficient communication is, I think, critical. I would also add commitment to this effort. Nathan just said it. We're going to have the largest challenge in the world to make sure that we're able to distribute the vaccines in the coming months. And if you're not committed to it, you need to commit it or get out, because otherwise, you're only going to hinder the process. And finally, we've said it over and over again: collaboration, partnership. I mean, you can use all kinds of words for it. But I think it comes to leadership as well.
Yeah.
We need leaders out there that are going to get us through this effort, both from a government, from an airport, from the private sector, all the way up and down the supply chain. We need to identify those leaders and make sure we get out of the way so they can make sure that we're successful. Leadership is critical to this effort as well.
Exactly, and well said. So staying with you, Amir, what 3 things quickly would you like to see coming from the supply chain or anybody else to enhance or help your efforts?
Well, I like to start with maybe procedures. I mean, we need to understand the challenges that the supply chain faces, and make sure that we understand how to meet those challenges. If we don't know what they are, then it's going to be very difficult to obviously work through them. Going back to the vaccine effort, the location of the manufacturing is also something that I think is very important for us to find out. Knowing where production is going to take place is going to help us better plan for that distribution long term. And then I think the last thing is making sure that we understand, that the federal governments, the governments around the world, the role that they play with the supply chain. A lot of them are making deals. A lot of them are announcing collaboration efforts, or our government here in the U.S. recently said they're buying 300 million vials from Pfizer when the vaccine is available. Just knowing about those things is, I think, going to be very important, because again, it'll play into the overall effort for global distribution.
Exactly. Yeah. Logistics efforts, they need to be communicated and informed. Yeah. So they need to know. Exactly. And now, Nathan, from yourself, what 3 areas would you like to see coming from the community or the supply chain?
I think through end-to-end collaboration, and with end-to-end, I mean not just airport to airport, but really involving the shipper and the end customer. We need to know what they want. They need to talk to us, and perhaps in their own language, and we will put a translator in between to understand them, because sometimes we live on different planets and speak a different language, but we really need them on board.
Yeah.
Otherwise we cannot make it happen. We simply don't know what they need. So that's one. I think two, the willingness to invest from all the different stakeholders in the supply chain. It's challenging times for all of us, and I know it's not easy to make investment decisions, and not just in infrastructure. I mean, as airports, we can build the right infrastructure, but also in training, in the right staffing levels. It's vital, and not easy. Those are not easy decisions at this moment. So that would be a second one. And a third one is simply keeping a flexible and open mindset. I think challenging times, we said it already, or Emmy said it already, in times of crisis, it's an opportunity to change things. And we have seen it happening. Changes happen a lot faster than they would have happened in normal times. But let's use it as an opportunity. If probably in a couple of months' times things go back to normal, and then it will become much more difficult to change things. So let's use this as an opportunity and approach it with an open mindset.
100%. And it's lovely to see that there are a lot more enablers around than blockers now. I think the blockers are realizing they stick out like a sore thumb. So hopefully that will continue. Gentlemen, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for joining us. Amir, thanks for sharing the challenges of a lovely young family. It was really enjoyable. And I wish you both success, and well done for everything that you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Nathan.
Cheers.